Okay, guys, after a short break for a rather unexpected illness, we are back and we are working on building details. Okay, so with that in mind, we are going to sort this out. Building. So we're definitely going to need the building. Okay, and that is going to be of type PP base building. So basically when we click on that, then we're going to pass in the building type, and that's going to give us the recipe. Okay, so what we need to do is go to base building, and in base building, which is here, this part here. Now this is showing details, building details, right? Which is going to be made up of which isn't there. So it's here, and in the graph, the miner is going to give the mining details, and we're probably gonna lose that. And we shall rebuild this. So it's going to be pretty similar to this, I believe. So we'll copy that and shall move this down out of the way. We'll pop that in there. We shall pop that there and eliminate that. Then this is going to be W recipe details. Okay. Then we shall refresh nodes, and in building the recipe details, our building is going to be instance editable and expose on spawn. Save that, back to here, refresh nodes, pop that in there. Okay, so we shall work along with this. And we shall see what we've got so far. We shouldn't have very much, I wouldn't think. But we should be able to build something, so we can build a refinery. And then we can see what that's going to give us. And you can see it's giving us a refiner there. Then nothing for there. So in our that's fine. So what we can do from here is we can say, I'll stop it just now. We can say current recipe. We can get the current recipe. Then we can break it. We get product out image. Okay. And we don't want to do that, so we shall cut that, and we shall go saving that. We'll go back into our recipe, we'll paste that, we shall plug that in there, we shall get our image recipe. And I believe we're going to end up setting brush. So set brush. And we know that the brush, or the image anyway, is going to come from the product out image, and we're going to have to make the brush, and I believe this is 64 by 64. And the image is that. And everything should stay the same. So this is the first step. So we should now get the first image. And we can set this to whatever size we want, probably 100 by 100. And there we go. It's looking good. Stop that. So that is the first part, and now we need to get the actual recipe once again. So we shall do it here. Pull that off. And now the question is, how do we go about this? How do we want to go about this? Okay, so we've got a vertical box. Then I think what we'll do is we'll put a spacer. Okay, spacer is just going to have a Y. Let's give it 10. Just gives us a little bit of space there. And the next thing to do is probably text box. So we'll have a text. and that is going to be inputs, and so we're going to have to change that to, let's say, 36. Okay. And then what we're going to have to do is probably do a horizontal box. And this horizontal box I think this horizontal box is going to have to be a variable, so we'll call it HB inputs. Make it a variable. Okay. So we shall save that, then we'll go back to the code. Then we shall break this. Then we take our inputs, and for each this is an enum, I believe. In fact, what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to do this to string, get the friendly name, then we're going to have to do a data table, get a data table row, and this is going to have to be replace space to no space, and that goes in there. Data table is going to be items, and the out row I still use UE4 because UE5 isn't stable. A lot of the plugins don't work in UE5, the current version, so with that in mind, bad idea. I mean, there's no reason why once UE5 becomes more stable that you can't just transfer it. So it's not that big of a deal. If that answers your question, Rami, let me know if that answers your question or not. Yes, I've got a few friends who work in 5 now, and a couple of them have went back to 4 after having issues with plugins and all sorts of things, which is exactly what I had. As I said, you know, they don't advise to bring out any sort of game in 5 yet anyway, so mostly for that reason that plugins aren't certified basically, so that's about the be all and end all of it. No worries, mate, Rami. If you got any other questions, fire away. Right, so what we want to do here is we want to create the buttons that aren't buttons. And I can't remember which buttons they are, to be fair. Now, was that a button? Was that a button? I don't know. I don't know if that was a button or not. Could always just add an image. Could I add an image? Or do I just want to add this button? I'm pretty sure I just want to add this button, but I can't remember which bloody button it is. I'm thinking it's this one. Yeah, we can do this one. We can just use this. That'll do. So that's individual building button. Okay. Right, not a good idea to close that down, but anyway. Right, so in here we can create widget. Do you use 4 yourself, Rami, or are you thinking about moving to 5, or what was your thoughts on the matter? Oh, this is a button we don't want to use. That is definitely a button we don't want to use. Right. I don't think, I think you'd be better trying to move to 5 if you can, unless you use a lot of plugins for filmmaking. I don't know anything much about it at all. But with Nanite and Lumen, then I'm guessing that Unreal 5 would be a really good thing for you. I'm guessing that I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't know. But I do need a button here that's going to do the job for me here. I need like a very simple button. That isn't going to do shit, basically. I'm just going to duplicate this button here. I'm just going to call it simple recipe button. And why not gaming? Well, if that interests you, then it's certainly something to get your teeth into, because I'm not going to say it's not awful lot of work, because it is. It's a heck of a lot of work. Right, so in this case, we're just going to take off any functionality on this button. In fact, I'm just going to remove it entirely. Yeah, you could be right, Rami, I don't know. Maybe I'll be. Right, so we're using simple recipe button, okay? So create widget, create widget, and that's going to be simple recipe button. And actually, you know what? That's not going to be called simple recipe button. That's going to be simple recipe input. Simple recipe inputs. Right? We'll refresh the nodes on that. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this entirely. Excuse me. And we are going to pass in the image. So we're going to call that image input, and that is going to be instance editable, expose on spawn, and it's going to be texture 2D, text 2D. Save that. We aren't going to need the building. We aren't going to need the parent. Right. So that's fine. We can work with that. So in recipe details, we're back to create widget. If I can type properly, create widget, and that's inputs. Okay. So we go row found. Pass in the image. We don't need the recipe, but we're not going to worry about that too much. We shall just carry on with that. And in the simple recipe itself, we shall do an event construct. Okay. And we're going to say this, get, set, image, no, it's set brush, duh. Right, that was a bit stupid there, Ryan, but never mind. Right, so we're doing the brush, we make a brush, we make it 64, 64, pull in the image, image input, get, bring that down, pop that in the image, Bob's your uncle. Back to here, and then we do the HP inputs, get HP inputs, add child to horizontal box, content is our widget, and we come to here, plug that in, and in theory, in this case we should only have one input, which is, I believe, well, depends, I think it's copper. I think I've got it set to default to copper, but we'll soon find out. So, when we click this button, we should get the inputs. And there we go. Cool. Now, what we need, along with this, is let's just do one more little thing here. And what we'll do is we shall add text. We shall add a text to this vertical box. Excuse me. And it's going to be quantity. We shall change our font. Well, Rami, that's kind of what I'm doing, but I've already got a game on Steam that I did in UE4. Check the description, you'll be able to have a look. It was a tower defense game. Available on Steam. Anyway, so what we're doing is we are making a button, and we're going to have to give it quantity now. Okay? So, with that in mind, what we need to do is get a copy, then we use this array index to get the copy, and then this is just a number, so when we pass it into the inputs, okay, we can just basically say quantity, and that's going to be, I'm going to go for an integer here, and we'll save that, and we should have There's quantity, right? Right, so that should be a variable. And that's going to be txt qty. And yes, this is a game. In case you hadn't wondered, I mean, I'm working on UI, so you can't really see it at this point, but we're working on it, don't worry. We have some definite gameplay elements. So that's the wrong thing. We want this. We want that. We have the quantity. And we're going to add a variable in here called, we'll call it int. Well, I've actually got it. And this quantity is going to be instance editable and expose on spawn again. And then if we bring that up and refresh nodes, then we can plug this straight into here. And then over here we can get that. Then we can get text quantity. And then we can set text, which is set text text. Why, thank you, Rami. Kind words indeed. So what we want to do here is an append. So append the string, and we basically can say qty dash, then the quantity in here, then we plug that in there, and we save that. So now okay, here's a bit of gameplay, right? So you have rovers that go and find the minerals, okay? And then a mining constructor comes up and builds a mine, okay? So then you can build a refinery, okay? Beautiful refinery. I never couldn't get into Total War games, to be honest. Too much micromanagement for me. Right, so if what we need to do right, okay, that's fine, good. Right, so what you can now do is build a conveyor belt between the two. Okay? And once you build the conveyor belt, here come the barrels. The barrels of copper. Along come the barrels of copper. And then you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's not really doing much. Well, actually it is. Because if I look at my refiner, which is here, and then I look at the output, Ah, right, okay. So the problem here is this is actually set to make bauxite. Okay? Which is the problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the code that allows you to change the recipe, right? Which I was changing basically over here. And this is the part here. So we can change this back to here. And now I should be able to change this over to copper. Okay, so if I make a refiner, so there we go. We can change it to copper. So we're now going into copper. And we can do a conveyor. Okay. Now you can see the barrels coming out. So we have production. And as I was saying earlier about refiner, right? We can look at it's plausible. So as you can see, this is now making copper sheet. And you can then join this onto something else. There's you can make a splitter and also a combiner. So it'll take 3 inputs and turn it into 1 output, or it'll take 1 input and turn it into 3 outputs and stuff like that. But as I said, we're working a bit on the UI for now. So it's handy to have that bit working again anyway. So you'll notice though that when let me see what's going on here, because let's select recipe. That's probably wrong at this point. Mining details, recipe details. We need to have a think about this one, because what we need to do here is clear everything down. Because you'll notice if I play that again, things get a wee bit janky, shall we say, when I change the recipe. So that's okay. that's kind of bullshit. It's just adding them. So we need to do a clear. Right, okay, so we need excuse me. So it's basically coming along here again, but we're not clearing the details, right? So fundamentally, we're going to clear that, and we're going to do that. And that's going to be mining details. And then we'll duplicate that. And then that one is recipe details. Doesn't want to copy. I'll go old style. Okay, you're just going to be a dick now. Okay. Fine, fine. We'll do it your way. And there we go. So that completed is going to go to there. And completed is going to go to there. And completed for this one is going to go to here. Except we'll put another reroute node in just to make it a bit tidier. Tidy this up at the end. This isn't quite right. I'm not too happy, but it's a quick fix, so probably should work. Right, so at the moment I'm just trying to get basic versions of things working. So like the miner works, the refiner works, the fabricator works, the splitter works, combiner works, the output on the conveyors work. All this basic stuff that needs to work works. Right, so I'm kind of happy with that. If I click on that, quantity 5 of that, we're making that. This is our product out, this is our input of the product in. And these are the different recipes that you can select. Okay. Now, if we look at the miner, we can see that he's bringing copper rich ore, products per cycle 1, cycle speed 1, minerals available 22. Okay, so it's down to -3 for some reason. Awesome. Ah, I know where that is. There is a bit more complication between what's been mined and what is stored, right? There is an intermediate. So, like the miner, if it's mining faster than the conveyor belt is carrying, then it'll put it into storage, and then as soon as it's stopped mining, it'll carry on putting the stuff in storage onto the conveyor belt, right? So at the moment, it has mined all the resources here, but it hasn't put all the stuff that is mined onto the conveyor belt. Okay, so that's why it'll show like a minus value for the miner, but it's actually still outputting. That is actually a correct operation. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go and grab a drink because I've got a bit of a furry throat, is the way I would describe it. I shall be back in a moment. Okay, so we're back, and let me have a look at this question, Rami. Why don't you make the UI of the refiner look like an image of a refiner? Good question, but there's more than a refiner. I mean, I suppose what you could do, because remember, this is just the start, right? So at the moment, we've got a refiner, right? We have a smelter. Some of these are just placeholders. And we have a fabricator, right? So it wouldn't make sense to make a different UI for every single one of these. I suppose at the end of the day, what you could do is you could have like a wireframe and have it as a background image, which would be kind of cool, I suppose. But in the meantime, it kind of doesn't make sense to have a copy of every single UI. I mean, you could go that way if you wanted to. But I wouldn't find it to be a great idea. Right, so the size on this is going to have to be a bit bigger. Okay, we'll save all of that. So Rami, I'm just easing myself back in. I've been sick for the last about 4 days, and I just wanted to get back on a stream, but I normally stream every day, and if you're interested, then let me know what you'd be interested in seeing me do, whether it be like AI or general game stuff or data tables or whatever you want, basically, if that would interest you. Now, we want to get back to... Right, we want to have a look at this and see what the issues are here. Right, so this is going to have to be output, right? And we possibly don't even need this heading for this, but anyway. Now, we need names here. Right, so we need names. So for the names, right, we're putting name here, or at least we're putting the image here, okay? Can stop that just now. And here's the inputs, here's the... So what we can do is, in here, we can wrap this with a horizontal box. We can change this to variable and let's call it HB output, because that's what it is. Okay. And what we need to do is add a text box. And that's going to be a variable. And that's txt output. Change this to simplifica and to, let's see, 36. That'll do it. Save that. Back to the code. TXT output. Then we don't do that. Go back to here. Get that. And we set text. And then that's going to be toString. That goes to there. And that should now give us our text of the output. Right, so gives us our iron roller, but you'll notice it's hard up against, so we're going to have to add a spacer in here, which is fine. We're okay with that. We can either do that or add some padding. Pad left, let's say 15. In fact, let's go crazy and call it 20. Okay. That should do us for that. Right, so and that's all well and good. So stop that. All of that. I can never get this thing to center in the right bloody place. call it fine. Right, so what else do we need on this, if anything? Oh yeah, we need the the name of the inputs. No idea what Lyra is. You see, the problem with a lot of these things in Unreal Engine are they're pie in the sky. And there's no way the individuals or indie developers are ever going to be able to do stuff with them. You know, you look at the Valley of the Ancients download, it's about 100 gigabytes. There's no way like an indie developer can leverage that amount of assets and stuff. There's just no way. I'm not buying it. So all these technical demonstrations are all well and good, but I'm more interested in making a game, to be fair. I'm sure it's very interesting tech, but right, so we were making the input, the simple input recipe thing, right, and we needed one more thing. And that one more thing was basically txt input name, and so we save that. We're going to bring that in. We're going to add a variable, and it's going to be txt name, and it's going to be instant editable and exposable spawn, and save that. So we're going to have a very similar thing here. Text input name, get that, set text, and text name in here. It's going to go straight into there. Take the alphabet. Save that. And this is going to be item. So that's going to be to string. Wow. Right, well that's not right. So that's going to be string. Change that. I'll take a look at it tonight after I finish the stream, Rami. See what it is. I have heard the name, but I don't know what it is. So refresh nodes there and pop that in, save that. So that's okay. So I think we're going to have to call it a night there. As I said, my throat is very, very tickly and I don't want to push it and end up not being able to stream tomorrow. So Rami, thank you for joining, thank you for chatting. Everybody else that joined, thank you. If you want to support the channel, the game, just check the description, click some buttons and have some fun. And I shall see you all later. Bye.